All right. Okay, good morning. Hi, thanks everybody for coming down. I wasn't sure what kind of turnout to expect. I've never really led one of these on my own before. But, so my name's Pierre Morissette. I'm a system administrator with Carleton University. I've worked for the university for about 12 years. Well, most of it with the Department of Advancement Alumni, doing basically reporting, databases, that kind of stuff. And for the past 3 years, I've been working directly for CCS and have been looking after the System Center Configuration Manager, server and service, and sort of the roles that go along with that. So just as a quick show of hands here, so I know who I'm talking to, how many people here are actually currently using SCCM 2012, either Service Pack 1 or not? How many people have 2007 at some form? And everybody else is just more about curiosity, I'm assuming, or are you planning on going there, or just general knowledge, I guess? Pretty much, okay. Okay, well, so I was sort of trying to get, or hoping for a format that's a little bit more informal. So I have some slides I can talk, to include the face, but really I'm trying to encourage people to just, if you have any questions, stop me, raise your hand, we can talk about some stuff. I've also got a connection just to my desktop, so I can get to the console if there's anything you guys actually want to see or anything like that, and sort of take it from there, I guess. Okay, and so a brief history. So we've been using, starting with SMS, I guess, back in around or so. My predecessor, Sean Baker, and we started using SMS 2003, really just pushing out some updates. I think they were doing a lot of inventorying, but they weren't doing real application pushes or operating system. They went to 2007, around 2008, I guess, and my predecessor left the university, and the server sort of left running for about 6 or 8 months until I came in and took over the role. And so it was a bit of a shotgun approach to sort of have a whole production server, 4,000 clients out there and week-long training. So it was a steep learning curve, but we did all right, I think. And right now we upgraded to SCCM 2012 last fall, last October, and then I applied Service Pack 1 within, I think, a week of it coming out. So it's running pretty well right now, and personally, I think the 2012 product over 2007 has a lot of really good enhancements in the way it handles features, and so far I'm really happy with it. Now I know that I think there's coming out at the end of the month or next month. There's another update coming up, so that way it'll be compliant for Windows 8.2 and Server 2012. The latest patch. So we'll probably be looking at that over the summer. So for anybody, if there's anybody out of the 2 or 3 who have a 2007 server, there's one thing that I noticed that was not in any of the documentation when we did the upgrade from 2007 to 2012. Everything went really well. We ran through all the technical articles, went through all the scripts and everything else. But about a few days after we migrated and started updating all the clients across campus to 2012, we started seeing these errors. Well, it's not an error. This update showing up in the Windows Update on Windows desktop clients and on the server. And it took me forever, a couple of days, to really track down what this was. And it's basically what they call an undocumented update. It was I found a blog entry from Wally Mead in one of the forums where he was sort of had a little nudge wink and sort of saying that, oh, well, there's this hidden update engine in the Windows Update server system. So if you're running a campus Windows Update Service on your own independent. SCCM 2007 will actually apply and create a local published update, and it's hidden. Even to the local console on the update server, you won't see it. It's actually hidden off from the user. It's just like a system update. So as we rolled out the 2012 client, we had no idea that these were actually being, as a required mandatory update. And Windows clients were seeing it. Whenever you tried to update it, of course, you already have a client and back and forth. So I actually had to go and download an open source Windows Update console tool to be able to log into the server, find the local published update, and sort of get rid of it. So it's a little bit of a catch if anybody's trying to do an upgrade. Definitely something to watch out for. So where we are today, as far as the features that we're using with 2012, we're using just about everything in some capacity. The software updates, definitely. We have a monthly schedule, usually at the third week of the month. We'll push out updates to servers and then to workstations, student labs, sort of in sequence. And we use operating system deployments. Very much, I'll talk about that a little bit later on. The hardware software inventory, software metering especially, just because we do have a lot of software in our labs, and we use remote apps, and we have on a remote desktop services server. So a lot of requests come in from the faculty every year for specific software and whatnot, and software metering has actually been really, really useful because we've been able to actually pare down some software titles and sort of try to save a little money here and there. Asks for software, if we find that nobody's using it through the course of the year, we try to tell them about it. That way they can make decisions if they want to keep using it or not. Maintenance windows, use them on all the servers, are configured to one of three maintenance windows, either on a Monday morning, a Wednesday morning, or excluded altogether. We try to really limit how many servers are actually in the excluded window, just because at that point, you really rely on the local administrators, and more often than not, they don't. The configuration management item we do use as well. We've got a couple of baselines that are applied around campus, and I'll talk about that as well. It's a really nice tool, as well as the Wake on LAN. Now with Wake on LAN, we have paired up with the 1E software in our student labs. So we've been using it for a few years to sort of get the labs to shut down, restart every night at like 3 a.m., run updates when they're thawed because they have deep freeze. 5 a.m. They go down again, power up at 7 a.m. and it's been fairly successful so far. So it keeps a steady, keeps everything on a steady schedule, and it makes things to be available for students. Where we aren't, so features that we don't use at all are the network access protection. We don't have, there's a few extra servers you have to have in your infrastructure to be able to support it, so we're not using it at all. Same thing with endpoint protection. We're under license with the Symantec endpoint protection product. So endpoint, the Microsoft, once our contract is up, because we would have, it'd be nice to have everything in one there. And the Macs and Unix clients for SCCM. Now this is new, and it's something that we would like to explore. So I'm not sure if anybody's got any experience with it at all. We started reading about it, and there's a bit of infrastructure work that has to go client. You have to have a full CA certified cert. Apparently the SCCM client on every single transaction, it checks the certificate, against the CRL, and goes back and forth. So you really need something that's recognized by CA, on and off campus, that kind of thing. So, and apparently it has to be, at least it's Windows 2008 or 2 or newer certificate server. So right now our campus one that's tied to the domain is 2003. Not ready to start looking at that. The other issues that might be a bit problematic is because you need to manually get onto the Macs and these Unix boxes to join. You can't just deploy them because there's no, even if they join the domain, there's no administrator account that you have access to do anything. So it really is, there's a bit of politics around it because you have to sort of opt everybody in, and they have to willingly bring their machines around to you. So it's something that we're looking at. So I'm thinking maybe it'll be a few years before we actually get something viable out there, but it's definitely something that we're doing. So I don't know if anybody who's doing anything with SCCM has ever had a real showstopper moment where you've done something in its situation. I can tell you that I've gone through one, and it was a bit of a lesson, and we sort of learned from it a little bit. But basically, we had this is about a year and a half, or 2 years ago, I guess. We started looking at a Windows 7 migration, creating the image. Had a nice setup going where it would basically, using USMT, we use hard linking to identify all the files in the system, wipe the drive, install Windows 7, restore everything, join the domain, off you go. And it was going well. We had one collection that we were using basically for systems around campus, and just mostly in CCS to get Windows 7 going and get it installed on, get people exposed to it. But then one Saturday afternoon, I was actually just cleaning up the collection around it, and accidentally, discovered that when you're in SCCM, if you have your collections defined by a SQL query, I was just clearing out system names that we've gotten rid of and whatnot. Well, I got rid of all the criteria in there, and I hit OK. Not realizing right away that, okay, well, you just basically created a select all statement because you've gotten rid of the where clause. So 20 minutes later, I turned around, my coworkers' systems were in the middle of re-imaging. So I started running reports, and there was like over 400 systems that are on that Saturday afternoon that are just going through a migration right there. The only, so I basically had to call my boss, and then we sort of went through and spent Sunday analyzing who was hit, what the impact was, if any data was lost. And to my pleasant surprise, basically everything went very well. There were maybe a handful of systems, really, like a few people who, mostly faculty members who are using Eudora for mail, which is already like 15 years out of support, but they were still using it, so they lost some email. There was one, I think it was a mass spectrometer that was tied to it that had to be recalibrated once they got everything set up. But by and large, it went very, very well. And I attribute it really to I'm sort of paranoid about how I create things in SCCM, because things can go wrong really, really quickly. So I make sure that, you never exclude maintenance windows if you do apply it. I always set up the OS criteria on all the packages, the task sequence, the advertisements. You want to make sure that you're really restricted. If this stuff's meant for a workstation, just make sure it's which workstations, what versions, what service pack levels. I get right down to the nitty gritty, and also making sure that all the collections that you have are not. You never target the all systems. So usually, I think in 2012. I'm not sure if it restricts or gives you a warning or something. But basically, you try to always define your collections for the purpose and make sure your advertisement searches to that. So if you do have an accident, something opens up, you make it mandatory, you're not wiping out the campus, and you're really trying to minimize the impact. Okay, so our current focus this summer is really just to get rid of Windows XP. We're down out of, I think we have 4,200 systems on campus, down to about 360 or so XP systems. So the goal here is to try and run these through the summer, and by September 1st, basically stop support. We know that the Microsoft deadline is next spring, but we don't want to wait that long and be in the middle of even though we've got right now, I think we started about a month ago. Anybody who's still running Windows XP, they have, as soon as they log in, we use Kickstart for scripting. So they get an actual message box as soon as they log into the desktop, and they can't do anything. There's a deadline coming, contact CCS, and get out. So we're trying to get people to proactively contact us. So that way we can just sort of give them some information about the migration, what's involved, set up the advertisement for them, and off they go. But we do expect probably by mid-end August we'll get like a flurry this year time, but that's sort of the plan right now. Okay, so for the operating system deployment component, we're trying to adopt a more of a self-service model, so that people like CSUs from the different faculties, CSUs like the computers, don't have to call the service desk whenever they want to reimage or do something, because we used to use Ghost with Windows XP, so everybody had a Ghost. With SCCM, we've now just use basically just bootable USBs. We create a bootable ISO, refresh it every month, so you set the certificate on it to expire every month, so that way drivers or NICs or anything else, everybody. So the idea is we've got a number of collections set up for the various images that we have, because we have, even though it's one base workstation image and one base student lab image, every CSU or area has different, maybe a few different scripts and stuff that they like applied. So we've set up a few different advertisements for each individual area, and we've advertised all of those, including the unknown computer objects, to those advertisements. And so one nice thing I like about the 2012 product is you can target your advertisements only to boot media or Pixie. Now we don't really use Pixie very much, mostly because the boot image that we have right now, because there are extra tools that you can add into them, is about 200 meg. And Pixie is really slow. So when you're trying to boot up, so the nice thing is using all of this is basically if you have new hardware that comes onto campus, basically just plug it in, put it in the network, boot with the USB, and you'll have basically a menu of images available to you. So you've got something specific for one of the student labs, and it'll just do the image right on the spot. You rename the system, you're done. All in all, it takes about an hour and a half per system. So it really is kind of a hands-off kind of approach. And it's the same thing for existing hardware. So as long as you're already running Windows 7, your system will see these advertisements. There's a bit, I think it's a bug with the client, I guess, in Windows XP, because even though we've hidden the advertisement to be only on the available to boot media, in Windows XP, the advertisements still come up. So we've just excluded them completely since we're getting them anyway. But yeah, it's for anybody else. If you've already got Windows 7, it needs to be reimaged, reloaded, whatever. Just boot with the USB, off you go, and we don't need to get involved. And it seems to be going pretty well so far. Okay, so for configuration management, used to be called, I think, desired configuration management. So we've got a couple of baselines that we've applied or that are active right now to try and sort of maintain, even though we have group policies that look after certain things like sort of firewalls, AC levels, that kind of thing. We have had instances where people try to work around those. But what this allows us to do is using the configuration baselines, we do have the ability to sort of automatically find which systems are out of compliance in specific areas. Some collections are updated automatically based on the evaluations, and then there's tasks that are advertisements apply to collections. So that way things can get remediated without us ever getting involved. So if someone, for example, were to come on campus with their own home system, bring it in, plug it in, join the domain, well, our client will get on within 2 hours. The configuration baseline evaluation will happen a little after that. They'll get the antivirus put on, the right UAC levels, the firewalls, like everything will sort of happen, within a few hours. And we never really had to. Same thing like open shares. Although the open shares one, I don't think will actually do anything, but we'll see it in a report. So that way we can go and proactively go. So to try to establish a known baseline on systems on campus. Okay. So role delegation, they've changed the security model a little bit in SCCM 2012 to make it easier to define custom scopes. So you can, create a role, assign a scope to it, just say workstations, and you can assign it to, well, the example that's most often used is like service desk staff to do stuff. So we've started looking at that, and we've got one person on our service desk who right now has full read writes to everything, and created a couple of other scopes so that way they could conceivably just look at setting up advertisements for applications and whatnot. But part of what I'm seeing is that we're not sure how to use it, because I mean, if they need just access to control or remotely administer systems or do that kind of work, they already have those rights using other tools. So I'm trying to sort of find a way to say, okay, well, or I'm hoping to find out if anybody else has done this kind of thing, is how do you use it? If you've actually tried to delegate the console out to some other areas of your infrastructure, if anybody. So yeah, so it's just, I don't think anybody here is big on 2012 right now, but if you do come across anything or you hear of it, I'll have my email on the last slide. Just please try to send some feedback. I'd love to hear it. Okay, another thing we've done is really just to maintain sort of old data out of between Active Directory, and even though SCCM does have the settings pre-built that if a client doesn't communicate to the server within 30 days, they'll mark it as inactive, and then they'll purge it out of the console. It doesn't take care of anything in Active Directory. So people just go and rename systems or drop it off the domain, do something, and you end up with getting junk, I guess, that starts polluting your Active Directory. So we've created a VB script that basically that we run at the end of each term, and it'll look at finding any systems that haven't spoken to the domain in the last 4 months, and basically puts them into disabled, release them out of the SCCM, and then the next time we run it, it'll also purge it disabled. So it's kind of a cycle that keeps going. It's been really successful in bringing the numbers down. We find that every term there's about anywhere between 50 and 90 systems that end up falling out of favor and would not have been picked up otherwise. So if anybody's interested in the script, I'll gladly send it over. So a couple of files, and you just run the one command. You can skip. And it's actually really nice. Okay, so upcoming projects as well. Like I mentioned, we have been using Wake on LAN in student labs. We're looking at rolling out Wake on LAN across more faculty and staff on campus. It's part of a larger power management initiative by our facilities management people. And so we're doing some testing right now. We're starting with one building, and the idea being that we can just push out our 1E agent to all the workstations on campus, set up some base policies where systems can go to sleep state. People can just come in the morning, hit the keyboard, come back up. Or they have the option if they PN in onto campus. There's a website, like a web wake up service, where they can log in and just wake up their system and get a little desktop connection to it. And so our initial testing is that it should be pretty successful, but I think we're looking at about 2 months. So, the other thing we're doing is looking at BitLocker and trying to secure initially laptops, because they're always the big ones where it's here. So we're going to using SCCM. We've got a couple of reports that can check the existing status of enabled, what versions they are, so you can make sure that and then run some scripts to try and enable everything and get so we're hoping to again do that over the next few months, initially with laptops, but then if all goes well, probably with some desktops as well. So that's pretty much it. Right now, the only other thing I would recommend is anybody who is using SCCM, look into these two tools. The last link on the bottom is just that update publisher if you need to get a better look at what is on your Windows Update server. But the first two tools, the right-click tools and the SCCM Flying Center, the right-click tools are, I'd say, indispensable. If you're running SCCM, you've got to get this, because it enables a bunch of actions, features, just commands, jobs you can initiate right from within the console. And it applies to collections, to the objects as well, and you can customize them on every one. You can go and either create your own, they'll be created and added to the menu, or you can just tweak the ones that are there. The Client Center itself is a separate product. It used to be an actual MSI executable. It's been since 2012. The developer changed it to a click on run. So you end up always having to have, it'll check for an update automatically whenever you run it. So it works fairly well, but the way that they've changed the development as well is you need to enable Windows Remote Management on your workstations and servers. It's usually a fairly quick command, like winrm/quickconfig or what have you. But you might want to look at it, because by default it opens up Windows Remote Management to all IP scopes on. There was a way to tweak it, so we're looking at right now, see if we should enable it in group policy instead, so we can sort of establish certain IP scopes where we're remote from, and not have it wide open, because know that it could start trying to spoof stuff. But yeah, very, very good tools. And that's pretty much it for me. So I'm not sure if anybody has any questions, any ideas. Oh, okay. So how many servers are required to run SCCM? Depends. There's a really good TechNet page that describes the various scales to run SCCM. I think they go from like 0 to 50,000 and then 50,000 to 100,000. So I mean, unless you have 50,000 systems, you're considered small potatoes. So really, you're looking at how many servers. We run one server as the main site server. It's fairly strong. It's got like 40 cores, 40 gigs of RAM, terabyte of space. And it does a good job. So it's got like the SCCM executive and the SQL database running on the same box, just on separate partitions for balancing. And we've got a second server that's strictly just a distribution point that's in the library, so basically across campus, to try and load balance the package delivery and the updates and out. The distribution point is not nearly as stringent in requirements. It's basically a glorified workstation that we put in around. You can run a desktop operating system as a distribution point. The only problem there is you're limited to like 2 or 10 connections. There's a server license on it, but hardware-wise, very, very low requirements. And the only other server we have is the Windows Update server. So the Windows server is actually running on a VM. So it has very, very little requirements as well, because all it basically does is act as a catalog between SCCM and the Microsoft Update service on the internet. So it just basically syncs up all those available updates, but all the configuration for and maintenance of what updates are downloaded and deployed are all done through SCCM. So you basically just set up the service on a little VM really well. So for our environment, for the campus, we've got just 3 servers. And yeah, the performance is does it have a mobile platform? Does it have mobile platform management? Not yet. I know that there is one of the features that we aren't using, and I didn't include it, is mobile devices. Once you have a certificate, a valid, say, internet balance certificate that you can use with the server, you can start managing mobile devices. So your phones, iPhone, Android, what have you. So you can remote wipe, do that kind of thing. I think you can, with a Windows phone, even deploy something, but we are not doing that yet. But we can do that through our Exchange console, because I think you can wipe, at least the mailbox, if not the whole device. Yeah, I think we've only had to do that once or twice, where somebody lost a device and we were able to just sort of safely get it. But yeah, definitely for iOS and Android, you can have some management, but you need the certificate infrastructure first. Do you have to join the domain in order to get the client on the system right from home? No, you do not. That's another thing with the SCCM, and again, it relies on that certificate. You can install the client in a work group environment, so a home, just non-domain, just as long as you have the right string, and you have the certificate available. So it's something that we would love to do, because you get faculty coming and going all the time. Joins the domain, we know about them, but we can't really do much with them. But we'd like to sort of try and sort of keep them. So again, I'm really hoping by maybe the end of the year or next spring have the certificate issue sorted out, and then we can start looking at these. How difficult is the initial setup? The actual once you've got your OS set up on your server, the actual setup is not hard at all. You need just one domain account, like a strong enough account, like a service account that can add, remove objects from the Active Directory, so it's very powerful. But as long as you have that account set up and you have your own domain administrator rights, setting up the actual server took me just the base set up and get it configured and running, and all the services set up probably about 2 hours. It really is planning. Like SCCM is all planning. You want to go through the TechNet articles. You want to read, just really get yourself familiarized on what it does, because it does sort of branch out and scan your network and finds objects and tries to install a client onto it. You want to make sure that you know what it is that it wants to do. But I mean, as far as the actual setup of it, it's really straightforward. Software updates, are you using the third-party patch management vendor or all in-house? Yeah, so we're using the Microsoft Windows Update all in-house, and the Windows Update service is free. It's a free download from Microsoft, so you can just set it up on a server and
how to use.
How
do you do the updates?
Okay, so for updating third-party products, with SCCM 2007, we had to manually, at least for the Adobe, like Flash, Acrobat Reader, Acrobat Pro, Adobe provided what they call SCUP, which are System Center Update packages. So you can go and download those. I'd have to set those up manually, sync it every month, right before we do the Microsoft updates, and that way, you sort of try to incorporate them into a single patch. With 2012, all that's come into the product itself. So really, it's made my life easier, because basically I just update one area. For things like Java, they don't have SCUP-friendly packages, so that really is up to either the application or package areas within the console to create your own package. If you want to update Java cross-campus to a certain point release, create the package, set up an advertisement. You can set up to be quiet. And the way we've set up our Java is there's a couple of reg hacks you apply afterwards to make sure that the auto update feature gets disabled on all user files, because it is a per user setting. But usually, like say we haven't had a need to really update the Java client, mostly because you want to keep it known and stable. So we have, like, say, in our student lab environment, we ask for software requests from the faculty at this time of year. We ask for what software they want, and so we establish sort of baseline. There's a test week where faculty can come in, test the image, so that they know what to expect for the student experience for the year. And once it's set for the year. So you don't want to update Java, you don't want to do anything like that, especially because we also run Banner as staff. So the reporting, if any version of Java changes and it breaks a report, it'll just, so we try to keep it steady. And if we do update it, everybody's in agreement. And like we have a DSC, like a committee. So we have a few representatives from around campus. If we do want to update something, and it does happen on occasion because you can't stay on the same release forever either, but we try to do it, like, say, once a year, and either update the image, so for new systems, and sort of discreetly roll it around campus. So things like Adobe, all the Adobe products pretty much tend to be rolled into SCCM, so it really is friendly for that. But yeah, everything else. Can the SCCM client be pushed automatically to clients? Yes, it does it. That's one of the built-in functions. Because you have the service account that's used with SCCM for all the client activity, and it's got full domain rights built into it. SCCM, as it syncs every night to the Active Directory to find new computer objects, it also has a network discovery component where it is paying all the subnets that it finds and to see if there's new clients out there that it can buy. As soon as it does that, and if it's a domain member, it'll try and install the client automatically. That's what I'm saying. If someone comes from home with a desktop, laptop, plugs it into the network, that won't do anything. But as soon as you join the domain, usually within 2-3 hours, the client will get installed, and then everything else will start trickling in automatically. It's pretty graceful. The only problems I've seen, not so much with the 2012 client, but with the 2007, is and mainly with Windows XP as well, is WMI issue. So you'll get the client on, inevitably there'll be a WMI issue at some level. The client stops communicating, and then it gets a bit more complicated because you have to go and try to fix the service, and then everything starts rolling again. But on Windows 7 with the 2012 client so far, it's been really good. We've done a lot of improvements in there.
How useful is it as a monitor to?
Yeah, well, as far as monitoring to see how long they've been off and that kind of thing, or
Well, how long is it, whether it's
there's a lot of with 2012, there's a lot of new reports specifically for power management. So you can get a history of how often the system is on or off, who's been logged into it, how often, and that kind of thing. If you're looking for just like, well, if the system's on right now, I don't think there's a report delegated that, but I mean, if you just look at an object, you right click, and say ping, and the kind of stuff's built in. But there are reports where you can get historical activity. So if you find that there's like and it's only been used like once a month for 3 hours, whether you want to keep it there, see there's a lot more information around that. I find that with SCCM 2007, there was some 300 reports built in. With 2012, I think it's close to 350. There's a lot of reports. There's a lot of data out there that you can collect, and it's all really, really useful. You can find out if you
those reports, do you have any of those reports that you've adopted?
There's a couple that we've adopted more for the immediate summer because of the migration. It's basically just a show me the operating system by collection. So we've got a subscription on, it goes to Steve Skurlak, our service desk supervisor. So basically once a week he'll see how many XP systems there are in each faculty. And then he works with them, and we're trying to bring the number down, basically, to 2 months. So those have been adopted. For update compliance, we actually created our own. Actually, I don't know if it's still on right now. But we created one where it will give you a little pie chart on the on each faculty and student labs and that kind of thing, and servers, whether they've got they're up to compliance for patches that usually run like 48 hours after the patch deadlines. I just want to see if I can pull one up here. Yeah, because I mean, as far as reports for our management team, there's maybe 2 or 3 reports, and that's one of them. Most of the other ones are really used by myself or Todd and my coworker. So requests come in, people want some information. We can supply them with some details very, very quickly. Oh, is there any other question while I'm waiting? Oh. Yeah, as well, the reporting has been standardized to the SQL reporting service that's built into the SQL Server. So you can use Report Builder 3. It's all really standardized based and nice GUI if you don't like the running queries, and it runs very, very well. I just want to see if I can get this here. Right. So you got here, here we go. So this one I wrote up with 2007, but I had to update it for because some of the tables and views changed. So I had to write this one up by hand. But basically, yeah, it'll give you, so campus-wide, what our compliance is for all of the updates that we've deployed. So it's not, problem I had before is it would only give you it would show you the compliance on all the updates that are available. You know, that would never work that way because we don't always push out service packs right away, you know, that kind of thing. So right now, this is really compliant on what we've actually deployed, and it's fairly good. It's one of the big improvements I find between 2007 to 2012 is the when you're pushing out updates in 2007, they used to assign automatically. So let's say you have a maintenance window of 2 hours, right, for servers where you have you're allowed to install updates. They used to it used to be a built-in value to that for every single update that they'd allow or allocate 20 minutes to install it. They'd assume 10 minutes for a reboot. So if you had like 50 updates because you missed last month or there was a freeze or something, you've only got 2 hours. You do the math, it's never going to fit. So then it wouldn't do anything and skip, you know, and so that was really not very friendly. With 2012, they've really flipped that over. So for every single update that you want to deploy, it assumes only 5 minutes for an install. It assumes 15 minutes for a reboot, and it's active in that, okay, well, it'll install an update, evaluate how much time is left, install another update, evaluate, you know, and it'll go and go. And so it didn't used to do that. So I find our success rate for applying patches is a lot higher than it was. You see what I mean with the excluded, you know, yeah, these have to be done manually. And that's why we try not to do that too often. But yeah, like we used to get numbers for successes in like the 60s, 65s, you know, and now since we've gone here, it's like it's regularly in the 90s. Like it really is a lot more effective at deploying updates. You know, so it's made things a lot easier. Anybody else?
You have weight on that.
Right now, it's in the labs. It's only on the student labs because, well, for when you use 1E, and so we're only licensed for 14 or 1200 systems. So we have it in the student labs. But what we're looking at for the staff, you know, we bought a few extra licenses right now just for the one building that we're testing in. And if all goes well, you know, because it's coming from facilities management, there's a broader initiative for energy conservation. There will be funds available so that way we'll be able to get some licensing and sort of roll things out. The 1E client is really kind of nice, even though it integrates into the SCCM console. So you can say right click on an object and there's like some tools. It creates a few collections in the console as well when it integrates into SCCM, so you can have some health reports. So the 1E agent will actually evaluate certain things as well. You know, if hard drives are full, you know, it's some nice to know data that they wouldn't necessarily get too quickly from SCCM itself. So I find it's a really nice product, and it's got a lot of flexibility on setting up schedules and notifications. So if you're about to shut a system down at 11 o'clock at night and there's a student library, well, they actually get a prompt. It doesn't just start going down, and they can delay things by a half hour or an hour. You know, so it doesn't really clobber staff. Some clobber students and get them off the labs. So it works really well.
For campus, look at all that any kind of desktop.
For VDI stuff, we are testing not so much for staff or faculty, but for the student labs to replace some student labs, I guess, in the classroom environment. So in this kind of room where we could say host, you know, 500 people starting Excel at once, and it'll be done through VDI. But it's really testing right now. So I don't know what the plans are as far as rolling it out. I think it will be based on feedback from students, profs. And we noticed this is the biggest catch. You know, setting up VDI is easy comparatively, but I mean, the licensing is where, especially with Microsoft products, you know, as soon as they find out that, oh, this is going to be in a VDI, if it's on campus or off campus, and what product, you really got to do your homework. You know, but yeah, we are looking at it and sort of baby steps into it.
How many people are involved in the day-to-day?
Day-to-day, there's truly. We run on a backup system, so we've got like Todd Switzer, who's my co-worker, we sort of share an office. He looks after the VDI, and because we have a lot of VMs for servers, but he looks after the VDI test, and he builds the images. So all of our, as far as the main console, you know, we back each other up, but really it's Once it's set up and running, it's one person. You know, you want to have some backup in case I get hit by a bus, basically. But if everything's working well, it's very, very low overhead. I mean, like you've got like what 4,200, you know, server workstations. Makes it easy. Yes. Absolutely, the whole server, everything on campus. If you're on the domain and you're Windows, we've got you. So all the servers, there's about 300 some odd Windows servers from 2003 to 2012, and they are all on have a maintenance window applied to them. That's what I was. I don't know if you saw on the previous screen. It was like it's a Monday morning, Wednesday morning, and then the excluded ones where we really do anything that's excluded is you'd have to have a good reason for it. You know, so stuff like a cluster exchange environment, you can't bring one down without doing a little legwork first. Well, you stick them in there; they're done manually. The domain control. Everything else, you're in one of the two windows, and yeah. So we apply like servers. We don't. We can push out packages. But generally not, because I mean, like they're not all CCS owned. We host them, we'll manage them on the domain. But as far as like really changing them or adding applications, we rely on requests from the owners specifically. But what we do ensure is that you have that base compliance, like the firewall, so UAC, your updates are applied monthly, so that way we reduce vulnerabilities and keep a stable environment, and then the rest is up to you. You know, that kind of. Yes.
Is that week on Landsat?
I'm sorry?
Week on Landsat.
1 E. Just 1 E, yeah. There are some wake on land functions built into SCCM. Use a standard, you know, I think it's port 9 or port 7 UDP. You can use that, and it's pretty good, but it's not as flexible. So it depends on what kind of usage you want to get out of it. That's it. That's it. Thank you very much.